Hey, welcome back to the Progressive Brothers Podcast. This is episode 71. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Progressive Brothers Podcast. Also, make sure you follow us on Twitter at Brothers_podcast. So today's topic is Gavin Newsom surviving the recall in California. And so Gavin Newsom has been under attack, since the beginning of the pandemic over very frivolous accusations such as masking and lockdowns and the economy and anything else they can throw at him. But where is all this energy coming from? The energy is coming from a particular demographic of people who are dissatisfied with Democratic leadership and those who happen to be on the left. Now, the perspective here is that they can't topple him physically by having a 1/6 style insurrection at California's State House. But what they can do is try to call for a recall in order to get him out of the position that he's in, or at least put pressure on Gavin Newsom to get out of that governor's gubernatorial seat. The way how I see it is that when it comes to Gavin Newsom, most of the issues that they're complaining about really started before him. And I think I've touched on this before in the previous podcast, but I'm putting this into perspective so that people understand where all of this energy is coming from. Most of the energy is coming from the right-wing conservative movement in California that has been dwindling the last 20 plus years or so. Prior to Gavin Newsom being there, maybe even going back to, the Bush administration, they may have had a strong 1/3 or greater than 1/3 volume of people, population of people, when it comes to conservatives within the movement out there. Today, it's less than 25%, so they make up less than a quarter, close to a quarter of the percentage of people to represent the conservative movement out there. And they're trying to find power, but the branding of the conservative movement is so bad in California that people aren't really latching on to what they're trying to do out there, because none of it is really effective in any other state where conservatives are actually at. Most of California's growth comes from the liberal movement on the left that has been, seeing record turnout for GDP, or what they consider to be GDP, year over year, election cycle over election cycle. They've seen massive amounts of growth. In fact, California is considered to be one of the top 10 economies in the world, even just as a state within the United States itself. So to say that it would have been better if we had Larry Elder in office doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because what would Larry Elder have done? Because he's never been a politician. He's a grifter, a radio show host. So what can he possibly have done to boost California's revenue? All of the ideas that he had, that he proclaimed that he would have done, really hasn't been tried under conservative leadership, even in their own states, and we haven't seen that done, in anywhere where conservatives have a stronghold. So if California as a state is doing so well under liberal leadership, with one of the top 10 economies in the world, why would a conservative coming in suddenly change that perspective to something greater when they can't demonstrate that anywhere else? Most of the California's institutions are extremely on the left. And when you talk about conservatives coming in, they're not really coming in to better anything. They're actually coming in to disrupt things, as we see with Larry Elder and most of his backers, so to speak, really didn't have a solution to anything that they were claiming that Gavin Newsom was responsible for, because the things that they're blaming Gavin Newsom for actually existed before Gavin Newsom even got there. And so this is where we are right now, that Gavin Newsom is not going anywhere. He survived the recall, and conservatives are mad and this was the last hurrah for them. What are they going to do after this? My guess is that they'll have to wait until the next election cycle, which is after 2022. And so, can they come up with a comparable opponent to Gavin Newsom and the Newsom administration? I don't think so. Conservative politics in California is not all that great. I mean, outside of gun culture, that's the extent of, conservatives' perspective on the ground. They don't really have a strong ground game because the branding of the movement is so bad that people just run away from it. You do have dissatisfied people within the Democratic Party and liberals and independents, but they're not enough to help, the recall for Gavin Newsom to get him out of office. It's just not enough. It's not sustainable either, because every time you're dissatisfied, you try to recall somebody. The recall is not necessarily when you're dissatisfied. It's when you do something that's completely criminal, such as, frauding taxes and, any other situation that happens while you're within the seats. It could be all types of allegations that violate the law. That's what a recall is for. Their proposal for a recall is basically an insurrectionist attempt to topple Gavin Newsom, and he's been able to survive this, and now you can't just use a recall sparingly anymore, because you basically spent all of your credit if you're the conservative movement, because spending your credit on a recall for non-illegal things or non-criminal activity means that going forward, no one's going to take you seriously. It's like crying wolf. So what are they going to do going forward? They have no other cards in the deck anymore. That's it. Now they have to run legitimately against a liberal incumbent, and they won't have anything. And whoever they throw at Gavin Newsom, trust and believe, they have to be better than Larry Elder. Because if Larry Elder is the best that they have, the reality is they're going to lose every single opportunity that they get. I think Larry Elder may have been the right placard image, right? This sort of image of a well-polished politician. Like if you Google politician, a black politician, Larry Elder's face comes up. But when it comes to actually putting up something of substance against a incumbent like Gavin Newsom, no way is that going to hold up. No way. And if you're saying that Larry Elder is the best that we have, the conservative movement is dead in California. Going forward, there is nothing left. So I say, kudos to Gavin Newsom and the left for actually surviving the recall, but too bad to the conservative movement on the right, who thought that they can actually unjustly topple people out of power, just by raising the stakes for a recall, when in reality they can be recalled too. Imagine if Larry Elder did win, right? And Gavin Newsom had to step down. How long do you think he's going to be in power before the left comes back roaring and get this guy out of office, do a recall themselves? Especially if you have all these allegations against Larry about being domestic violence, allegedly involved in domestic violence with his ex-fiance or ex-wife. I mean, how long is that going to last for? You be in office for 6 months before they get you out of it. Because if Gavin Newsom can be toppled for non-criminal things, what about the people on the right who try to take that position? It's not a sustainable agenda, and unfortunately, they use it as a weapon against anybody they don't like, and don't realize that same weapon could be used against them. So, like, share, and subscribe. Also, make sure you follow us on Twitter at brothers_podcast.